Hey Birdies, it's Star here, senior social media editor, natural hair enthusiast, mixed girl, and the host of Crowned, a series where we talk all about the history and significance of black hair. Today we're covering the silk press, a black hairstyle born out of survival. The first thing to know about the silk press is that it is a hair straightening technique that presses kinky, coily, and curly hair into sleek, straight strands. The second thing to know is that this hairstyle has been a trend for years, and there's a good reason why, but more on that later. This style is just as popular today as it was decades ago. For example, Tien Tamara Mowry wore a silk press during the later seasons of Sister Sister. Sleek and straight strands were Aaliyah's signature look, and Michelle Obama wore a silk press throughout her career as First Lady. And don't get it twisted, while celebrities have been wearing this style for years, it's also super accessible. I've even gotten a silk press earlier this year, and one in 2019 at Spoken Wheel Salon in Soho by hairstylist and color specialist Alex Hires. When I want to switch up my hair for a couple of weeks, this is my go-to style. But what makes the silk press so important, and where did it come from? First, let's get into the history. Black people have been straightening hair with hot tools since the early 1900s due to discrimination. Historically, straightening our hair has been an act of survival. When Black folks moved up north during the Great Migration, they faced new challenges, even after enslavement. After enslavement was abolished, newly freed Black Americans were virtually unprotected by the government. This led to widespread violence by terrorist groups and the oppressive Jim Crow laws that kept Black folks from enjoying their full rights as citizens, especially when it came to employment. Finding jobs and creating a life meant altering our hair texture in order to fit into the European beauty standards of the time. Unlike cornrows or bantu knots, hair straightening was born out of the need to survive in a racist society. And while straightening our hair is a popular style, it's important to note that exposing delicate, afro-textured hair to high heat with hot tools or chemicals can be extremely damaging. And by the way, the silk press was not the first hair straightening technique created for curly, kinky, and coily textures. There were a few other styles that walked so that the silk press could run. One of the earliest examples was called pullers. This straightening process involved two round balls mounted on a handle, which when pulled through the hair, loosened kinks and coils. Then during the mid-1900s, cold soap waves were a popular way to achieve pronounced parts and sleek looks. This look was mostly worn by men, and it could be achieved by using a hairbrush or a comb, large amounts of hair grease, water, running it through the hair, and then using a do-rag to preserve it overnight. Then in the 1920s, the hot comb was popularized by Madam C.J. Walker. And contrary to popular belief, Madam C.J. Walker actually didn't invent the hot comb, but it was a central part of her business, which is why she's often credited with the invention. The hot comb was part of Madam C.J. Walker's shampoo press and curl technique, which was a hair straightening method that was to become the foundation of the Black beautician industry. And it's pretty reminiscent of how hair is pressed out even today. The hot comb is an iron and comb combination that, when heated up, straightens and detangles curly, kinky, and coily textures. When I've had my hair pressed in the last couple of years, hairstylists have used a hot comb to slick back the hair just before my edges to make it as straight as possible. So the tool is still pretty relevant today. But as technology advanced, a new hair straightening technique came into popularity. Enter lye relaxers. To straighten hair, lye, which is a metal hydroxide, was mixed with potatoes in order to make the formula less caustic. This creamy concoction was applied to hair, and the result was straightened curls, kinks, and coils. Unfortunately, the lye was extremely toxic and could actually eat the skin right off of someone's head. But let's get back to the silk press. After the most recent natural hair movement took off in 2009, some Black people wanted the option to wear their hair straight, temporarily. Voila, the silk press. You get the same look as a relaxer, but none of the chemicals. Personally, I wish I had known about this style back when I was getting relaxers, because it's a lot safer and less damaging than using chemicals. But let's get down to how you go from curly, kinky, and coily hair to sleek, straight strands. One of the major steps to achieve a silk press is to use a heat protectant to minimize the inevitable heat damage on afro-textured hair. Although it's important, traditionally, afro-textured hair has been excluded from studies that test the effectiveness of heat protectants. But we'll get into hair textures in another episode. Back to the silk press. The style starts on twice shampooed hair that is then deep conditioned for 30 minutes in order to stave off breakage and tangling. After that, hair is rinsed with cool water in order to close the cuticles. Then hair is blown out and finally straightened into small sections for that extra silky finish. The style lasts around 2 to 3 weeks, depending on your hair routine. And by wrapping your hair at night in a silk scarf, your style is protected from breakage and remains silky day to day. And while this style is beautiful and trendy, it's important to note that hair straightening is a tool of adaptation for Black people in a racist society. And let's be honest, only in the last few years, where we've reached a new chapter in the natural hair movement, has it been accessible for afro-textured hair to be cared for in salons that cater to white people. Often, hair straightening was and is the only option when caring for Black hair. And in a society where European beauty is the standard, hair straightening was originally a trauma response to ongoing anti-Black violence. In contrast, a style like cornrows or bantu knots is rooted in pre-colonial cultural practices. So when Black people wear straight hair, it's a symbol of survival and of strength, and it's also a great way to mix up our look, which is a perfect example of why Black hair is Black history.